Okay, so hello everyone. Would first like to welcome everyone here: Bevan, Max, Neirum, and Anus. And yeah, so to start off, this is part 2 of the collective unconscious talk, and really to recap what has been said in the part 1 talk. Well, we're kind of like explaining what's the collective unconscious briefly. Basically, that it's the shared unconscious of a group of people, and it's also where the archetypes are. Then we went a bit further in to like the octopus, the different like I guess devouring aspects that are there, like think octopus, but also like I guess you could say like the spider of the internet, like the feminine spider of the internet, and like other figures like that, a bit about like what Kali is about, and then I guess it was a bit about aliens it went into. Then other people had said, including you, Neirum, that well, that there's way more to say about all of this, and hence part 2. And also Max joined today too. So yes, I don't know, like Neirum, if you could maybe say a bit about like the octopus and like what maybe a bit, and then like what else was still there to have.
Okay, yeah, sure, man. So yeah, we were talking about all this monster octopus imagery from like the late 19th and early 20th century. Just this like octopus taking everything over. They had pictures of it being like the oil company, the government, an opponent in a war. They had like these arms reaching out, grabbing everything. It was this giant octopus monster representing the enemy or the bad guy or the tyrannical. And I just thought that was kind of interesting, because at first it was a snake, and then it changes to this like multi-snake entity, just like this. It's an octopus. With these tentacles, but they kind of look like snakes or whatever, attacking everybody. But with it's more intelligent or something. After we defeated the snake, it's like the next level enemy. In a nutshell, is kind of what we were talking about.
Go ahead. I don't know if like you, Max, have anything like I guess like you would want to like know more about what we talked about, maybe.
Well, I don't know why that particular subject came up out of anything you could talk about in regards to Jung's ideas. Like why octopuses? Because it's never been a mythological image that I've heard him talk about.
Well, I guess the octopus kind of came out of, well, the with regarding like a talk me and Neirum had, and at the same time we were looking into the collective, or like I was kind of like looking into the collective unconscious, and so
yeah, it's like this new monster, is basically like this archetypical monster, this representation for like all this resentment, dark feelings about things, this like Cthulhu monster Lovecraft later made popular, and a lot of like scary movies and stuff like that. There's this tentacled monster, this octopus monster, this new. It just feels like it's kind of a newer thing that's just trying to scare everybody. Or you got these chains in Hellraiser, just coming out of everywhere, like a bunch of tentacles or something. Just something that has a multi-vector attack on you with a singular intelligence, like an
Oh, I
octopus.
see. So what you're
Yeah.
trying to figure out, I suppose, is why that particular type of monster has such a hold on the global consciousness
Yeah.
over the last 100 years. Fair enough.
Yeah,
I
basically.
suppose that maybe like something about like slimy coming out of the darkness, tentacles, snakes, something that can attack you. That's an image that's been in the mind of human beings for as long as we've had consciousness. I suppose that the octopus monster, like a Cthulhu, like an Azathoth, they like H.P. Lovecraft sort of took those ancient primordial ideas and hit upon them at just the right time that people sort of took them and run with them and used them whenever they could, without uh, going against copyright, because it does echo some of those ideas. Plus,
Hmm.
where do these snakes come from? They come out of the darkness. Well, where do these octopus monsters come from? Well, they come out of space. Well, space is as mysterious as the darkness, so it's sort of it's a reinvention of that archetypal idea where it's not the same in detail, but it's the same in pattern. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think that's sort of my prognosis. You can call it that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think like that. I guess because symbolically, like how it's represented within the culture, it's like I guess it has many shapes and forms, but it's kind of it seems to be like the same. I guess archetypal.
Protean.
Sorry, what
You
did
know
you?
what that means?
Hmm?
Protean.
I have not heard of that before.
It's the Greek god Proteus. He was capable of changing a bunch of different forms, and he was associated with the sea, which is another symbol for the unconscious, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tentacles and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but yeah, it seems like there's the same like archetypal force behind all of this, and it's kind of in a way like yeah, the showing up in all of these similar ish forms, and there seems to be something going on with something like that seems to be well devouring in some way, or seen as such at least, and having I guess like this unlimited control over things, and can weave its way into into a lot of things. And I don't know, I was talking then also in the part one talk about like how there is like a lot of this regarding the archetypes is also connected to, because the archetypes in the collective unconscious, Jung described them basically as like river basins, and that the our I guess the cultural energy that like our psychic energy flows into any of these basins basically, as water or marbles or however you want to visualize that, and bring such archetypes to life, and kind of like the idea is like to understand like why is this kind of particular image coming to life, and what does it actually mean.
Mhm.
But I don't know if you, Neirum, have anything more to say, and also would like to say welcome to MysteriousStranger for hopping on.
Yeah, hello. I came up late. It seems that it has already started. Um, we are following the same conversation as before, or
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Oh, we are about the
Yeah.
octopus and stuff. Yeah, but maybe
Yeah. Go
ahead.
ahead and jump in, dude. Like, if you got anything to add from yesterday or something that you've been thinking about since then that you want to talk about? Go for it.
I'm wondering why the image or the symbol of the octopus is related to control, but the lack of control from the first person perspective, because you don't see these overwhelming force that is taking things away from you from the outside perspective, from the bigger picture. You see it as some kind of adversary, something to go against. So, from your own perspective, why do we relate this to losing control over our lives? And we put this loss into the symbol of the octopus. And why in the media nowadays it's even something to strive for. I was thinking the last time of Bloodborne for some reason that
Mm-hmm.
takes the um, symbolism from Lovecraft as entities that are outside of your understanding. That to be able to perceive them, you have to become insane. But that's the mechanic in the game, but it's counterproductive, but put in a desirable way for the player as an experience. And then at the end, you fight this last boss, and then you somehow end up becoming some kind of octopus yourself. Like you become the very thing you fight if you fight it head on. It's the
Mhm.
irony of the reverse apotheosis in a way. You take back that control, but going to strike forward, but you end up becoming the very same thing you fought. How do you fight against this oligarchy of sociopath people in real life without becoming one yourself at the end?
Well, can I I would
Yeah.
actually push back against that a little bit because I played Bloodborne, and I would say that just because in one of the three endings that you can get for that game that you turn into an octopus type being doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to act with the same will or the same ideas that the previous great ones did. The whole point of the game is to try and transcend that. And by becoming one yourself, you would use your newfound powers to enact some sort of new order. That's at least the way that it seemed like it was what it was trying to suggest to me. I don't think, and also about the becoming insane in order to perceive these beings. I wouldn't say that you're necessarily becoming insane. The what you require in order to perceive those beings is this mechanic called insight, which isn't equivalent to insanity. It's equivalent to higher consciousness. Now you can fall into insanity, as we find out in the game. The more insight that you have, the more prone you are to falling to something called frenzy, which is the game's version of insanity. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you will. That's all.
That's heavy, man. I never played that game. That's
It's
heavy.
it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. That and the other From Software games, if you're willing to tolerate how BS some of those games can be when it comes to difficulty,
Yeah,
specifically Dark Souls 3.
Hmm.
that's why I watch the whole lore videos, so I don't have to play myself because it's
Wise
quite
man.
difficult.
Yeah, I played Bloodborne first out of all those games. Big mistake. Not because Bloodborne isn't brilliant, but for a first time person trying to get into this franchise, playing that game for the first few hours, I wanted to die. Like I was, nah, I'm being facetious, but that's how hard it is.
Wow. But I don't know. Like
That's heavy.
I don't know. I kind of then I'm feeling with that. Like I don't know. I've had that feeling that the indeed with Bloodborne, but also like with like I guess like Dark Souls and Elden Ring that I really have been having this feeling like that they are tapping into this like I guess the octopus thing and the essence of whatever archetype or whatever thing is kind of going on. And I don't know, like if you, Max, have like any ideas as to like regarding the different games like that, like kind of like what is the overarching story behind that? Like what is, because it feels like there's kind of like I guess something that needs to be resolved, that's kind of like being portrayed through these games. Yeah.
Well, it's easy. I mean, like, it doesn't. It takes a while before you figure out how easy it is to, like, what the overarching theme is. But the whole point is that you start from lowly origins and you're trying to transcend to the greatest status. But as you get to that highest point, you have to ask yourself, okay, well, what's the moral way of trying to get there? So for Dark Souls 1, spoiler alert, but the game is over 10 years old. There are two possible endings. You can either link the fire, which would aid the pre-existing gods in maintaining their world order, or you can refuse to link the fire and usher in the Age of Dark, which by proxy means the Age of Humanity. Now, what would be the right thing to do? To aid the old gods in staving off the dark, or would you usher in the Age of Dark, which would be the Age of Humanity, despite all the negative things that will necessarily come along with living in a world of darkness? Stuff like that. And then those themes carry over into Dark Souls 2, 3, Bloodborne, and Elden Ring. It's very subtle. You have to be paying close attention in order to understand, like, okay, well, what would be the best thing to do here? But that's part of the brilliance of it.
Right. And it's not just the octopus. That's just the kind of the newer thing. I was just trying to like think way back in like where we have really good records and like media and propaganda type things that was heavily used, that I could, find on, Google searches and whatnot, just
Yeah.
researching stuff.
The
But
octopus is more of a modern depiction of that eternal force that we've all been fighting against since we developed consciousness.
yeah. Since we really started to level up, I was just talking about early on. I felt like it was a snake. Like the snake was a serious problem, and then the snake wasn't as big of a problem. We started wearing it as like a hat, and it became like this symbol of consciousness, with the Egyptians and the third eye type of deal. And then it was like an octopus at some point when we got boats, because we didn't always have boats. And we get out in the water, and there's like this other monster with all these tentacles that seems to be appearing in the consciousness of humanity, I guess, from the boats, and like, oh, there's bigger stuff out here underneath us, underneath the boat. What could it be? Like a Cthulhu or giant kraken before that. And anyway, we talked about Warhammer 40K as well, a lot, like how archetypically significant it is for like the sins of humanity through the warp. And just in general in media, like nowadays and in the beginning of the 20th century, what are these monsters? We're like writing them down and illustrating them. So like, what are they? What's the anatomy of these psychic creatures trying to mess us up or challenge us or whatever? Is kind of I guess how I should have led into it, but just kind of on the spot of just diving into this. But from the bird's eye view, that's kind of what our ongoing conversation has been about the collective unconscious, kind of the monsters there. Because we're, like I said, we're just drawing them, we're writing them out, and I think it's kind of fun and interesting to explore what those things are and how is it significant in reality.
Yeah. Anus, I think you wanted to say something.
Is that Egg Guy?
I'm Egg. Hello. Yeah, no, kind of random and looping back to earlier. I just posted it in the chat. I feel like the octopus, thought of as a conglomerate of snakes with a single head, kind of brings to mind the concept of Leviathan.
There you go.
So I'm not necessarily sure if that's stable connection. I'm not sure, and I'm honestly not even too well read on Leviathan myself.
No, it makes me think of that too, man. Yeah. We talk. I think I don't know if we specifically said that. I feel like I did. I feel like I bring that up a lot. I try to, because it's just all within our stories, all over the place. It's just like, what is that thing? What's going on with that?
Yeah.
And I see it in video games and movies, because I've read a lot of Lovecraft, and I've read Olaf Stapleton and just these old sci-fi guys, and there's this monster, and it's coming back through media as like a popular, like the ultimate bad thing or whatever. I don't know, just this big monster that seems to scare everybody that we're re-exploring or reigniting in the imaginations of people. Like Stranger Things,
Yeah.
Bass was talking about that, like this smoke tentacle. Like, oh, you can't shoot it. Like it's smoke. Oh, what are you gonna? Oh, that's even scarier. But it's still this shape. It was like a spider thing, I guess, really. But this multi-legged, multi-vector attack from a singular intelligence thing is still happening.
I don't know, like one thing that I could bring up also, and it's something coming from Jung also, is that maybe part of it is because it is coming from, I guess, the collective unconscious, but really in that sense is it's I guess also something really in the it's a reflection of the consciousness of just everyday people, just, and I think that part of it is maybe like it's kind of like a message out of the unconscious of kind of individuals coming together in this like collective manner, creating this, or like propping up this particular archetype. And I know that you had said regarding Cthulhu also that he had like telepathy and could make people go insane, I think. But that kind of makes me also think a lot about Dionysus, who had said that he had similar powers regarding the mortals, and he kind of represents the representation of the unconscious itself. It's just one of the it's like Carl Jung talks about it in the sense of like the divine twins, like the twin myth, that kind of like the person and the individual is kind of split into two, really, like the conscious and the unconscious, and that's depicted by in some of these stories by these like horsemen that are riding on the horses, the horse being a symbol of the self, like in a lot of different cultures, like in Asia, for instance, but also in a lot of Indo-European stories, there's a link to that. Regarding the horse being a symbol of the self and of the soul, and these are like the, and I'm kind of feeling like a lot of this regarding this like devouring octopus is at the same time connected to maybe like a need to like find that balance again between consciousness and unconsciousness, and to reintegrate that. And I had like posted an image. I can post it again in Roundtable that I had used in the previous talk as well. Here it is. Just posted it in here in Roundtable. And I had written down here with the devouring feminine and the great devourer and in the octopus that it's a particular form that it takes. And Jung had also said that something that takes a particular form when it's engulfed in the shadow once you can like lift that out of it and actually reintegrate it, takes another form, it takes another shape. So what we're kind of here seeing with the octopus with these different figures is not exactly what's part of what it is, but it's like more of like, I guess, a demonic form of what it truly is, what it truly represents. And I think that behind that there is something more. And I was kind of then feeling like there's something regarding Eros, like the life force energy, but also the anima in some sense, because a lot of the stuff that seems to be going on seems to be like Jung also had kind of said, well, way back when he was writing Man and His Symbols, that there is this need to like rebalance, and I guess like this is maybe part of it, and maybe there's a fear of the unconscious, because Jung also had written something about like how, I guess, with a lot of this stuff there's a fear of going insane, of that it's irrational and leads to insanity. And I guess maybe with the frenzied and that part of the game mechanic, there's maybe like that fear in it, and there's definitely like a truth to that like, yeah, you could go insane, but I think that it's still I guess a journey we need to make regardless. It's kind of the hero's journey, really.
Regarding insanity, I think it would simply be a matter of if you think of the mind like a cup and it holds water, if you fill it up with too much, or I guess bodies of water too great than the cup can hold, then, well, yeah, you're literally going to lose your mind. It's going to start spilling out, going everywhere. You're going to lose it. You can't necessarily hold it in your hands. And
Yeah. I have two questions. When does an archetype starts to become a tulpa? If you know what a tulpa is. And the second is, at what point do you draw the line and your boundaries between your own unconscious of your psyche and the collective unconscious? Because it seems that even if you draw your own boundaries to establish your own psyche, you're still vulnerable to some extent to the collective unconscious, like it's its own collective entity that is not really mindless in its way, but not sentient either. You start projecting yourself into the collective unconscious because you grab hold of it, yet you're still affected by it. Like you cannot truly separate yourself one way or the other. I'm trying to look back at what I said before, that we become one with the sea, with the ocean, with these collective unconscious. And I'm thinking that it sounded like you are submitting yourself to it, like you give up. Okay, nature will be nature, right? But you're still alive. That's the thing. You cannot just give up life. So, how do you draw these boundaries and tap into the collective unconscious without being submerged by it? Knowing yourself is one thing, but I think there's more. It's just that I can't remember.
You guys know what a tulpa is?
I don't think so. Is
A
it like an
thought form.
for it all?
Do you want to tell him, Mysterious Stranger?
Yeah, go for it. What is it, man?
Explain it.
A tulpa is known as a thought form. You basically create an entity that you feed by concepts. Like you are creating some kind of artificial life with your thoughts. It's it's like it's similar to programming your own dreams when you lucid dream. But the thing is that the more you define the tulpa as an singular entity, not as a particular desire, like, for example, I want to sleep well, I want to have a more meaningful love life, things like that. Those are desires. But when you collapse those desires into an entity and project it and think about it really hard as a separate entity, then it starts to become sentient and independent of your sentient thought. That's what a tulpa is.
Oh, okay.
Silent Hill.
So it is like an egregore. And it's also kind of like how what we were talking about with Warhammer 40K, like those chaos gods in the warp. Those are like tulpas.
Yes, they became
Yeah.
defined
Okay.
by the emotions and fears of every sentient being
Yeah.
unconsciously, and then they become their own thing and started to like overflow into the astral world, according to Warhammer 40K. But Warhammer
Right.
40K took this idea from these kind of precepts. Uh, Tolpa is the way that in traditions, Indie traditions, thought of it.
Mm.
Like they are not saints or demigods, not even its spirits in nature. Like you find the spirit of fire, the Dijins, for example. No, these were artificial, created by humans, like a projection of themselves, but so well defined that it became an entity in the astral realm. But when does an archetype became a tulpa? I think that's the danger there, and it's
Mm.
very, very real, in its own way.
Do you think you can do a good one, like a good tulpa?
Yes, I
Yeah.
believe.
Okay.
Mhm.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah, so hearing you talk, because I know about Tulpas, and I had seen something from one YouTube channel called Jung to Live By. They're depth psychologists, Jungian ones, and they were talking about the term they use for it are complexes. I posted on the roundtable something about the ego and its complexes. So you have unaligned complexes. They're basically so complex. Maybe I should explain that first. So basically, a complex is a collection of thoughts and memories and desires, basically held together by emotion slash life force, and it's kind of like sentient of in of itself, how they described it, and they're complexes in of itself that already exist, but you can also create them. Like they call them a counter complex, but like I bet you could split off certain parts and create these as tulpas. But the thing is, what they made clear is that the tulpas have, I guess in some sense, there's like an archetypal form of, like, let's say it's like the devouring feminine or something, like, just to give an example, or whatever particular form it takes. That there might be a connection to the instincts and like the archetypes in that sense, but at the same time, the actual, it's you could really see it more as like a particular form that it takes, the tulpa, and the archetype itself is way more broad range. Like if you think about like the for instance, think of like the spectrum of light, where with the particular form and thoughts and these things that we have, basically zooming in on a particular section of the light spectrum of light. Well, the actual archetype has this way broader range to it. That's way broader and has all these different forms. So in that sense, I think the difference between a tulpa and really the archetype in its broad sense is kind of just the vast scope of the archetype, that it's way too vast to actually hold, because one archetype has many manifestations and many forms. So I think like I bet you could probably connect it to an archetype and even to the something in the collective unconscious if that is something that is alive. And I guess, I don't know. I guess one would have to really be in any sense careful with that. Because especially when it is something in the collective unconscious, and and it's culturally an archetype that's very, like, I guess, filled with like all of this psychic energy from all the kind of the attention that it gets, and all and kind of like, and maybe not just that, but also kind of like just subconsciously, like it being created through whatever is being repressed or has happened to prop it up. But I don't know, like, how to say regarding like a boundary though, like how to keep one safe. I mean, I guess the only thing that I can think of is really consciousness and being aware, like what is you and what is these other things, and what is actually part of you and what is actually not part of you. Because also this, like, Young to Live by channel talked about like how we can take on these more archetypal and like collective problems and take those on within our own psyche, and it's actually not us. It's not actually not even truly like a part of us in that sense. But you can acquire these things. But the thing is that I don't know, I guess awareness, and maybe like coming back to the game mechanic again, like the inside is something needed. And Jung said that too, that with for instance, well, not just archetypes, but really in general, that like with myths and different stories, that you don't tend to understand these things until you kind of grown past it to some degree, that you can look back and actually be like, yeah, I kind of understand this now. It's like the previous cultures with certain myths that like they just did the things kind of unconsciously, you could say it, but they did it, and they knew it was important, but they didn't actually know like why they were doing it. But that didn't really matter for them, because like it's ordained by the gods, so it's like obviously they're going to do it. But at the same time, I would say like I guess that's the real way forward, I guess, is just growing consciousness and awareness about it and trying to understand it. And it's kind of what we're trying to do here, to understand these.
Absolutely. Like, yeah. I'm just trying to figure it out too, man. Through our conversations.
I agree.
I feel like this
for
got a
the most
little
part.
piece of the puzzle, and we just kind of put it together, and it's kind of fun.
In my dreams, I usually saw symbols or places that I never seen before, and it's not really in the traditional way to interpret the symbolism in dreams. And when I tried to look into what it was, I went by describing it. Like in a literal sense, I saw this village on top of a tree, or I saw this temple and it have this kind of architecture. And I tried to define every single detail because I am looking for something that I didn't knew until that point. Some of the things are very obvious, and I see it as some kind of projection of my own memory of the things that I read or heard before. That's my mind projecting the symbol in a recognizable way. But when you find something that you have never came across ever, it's totally unknown to you, and you saw it in a dream, which part of that is your own unconscious talking to you, and which part is the collective unconscious projecting itself into your unconscious? Um, is it's very hard because at one point I just give up trying to find a reference to work with, and the first intuition I got seems to be the correct one. Like, the more I try to justify the meaning, the further I got from the message that was initially placed. And if I didn't write down these dreams, through the years, it became a vague memory, and I have to read them again to relieve certain details that escape from my memory. It's it's fun, but also a little unnerving how your thoughts change through time, and it's also kind of a blessing because if an unpleasant thought or a trauma from an individual is very vivid at the moment it happened, through the passage of time, it loses its substance, its shape. The same way you can lose something precious, you can also lose the pain that experience gave initially. That's good. That's good and all. But the interaction between things that you have no idea what they are, and your mind present it like it's so old familiar, and you feel this sense of familiarity, but you don't know what it is. How do you define it? You go by your gut instinct or try to cross reference with the experience of another, even try to look into old traditions and see the past symbolism, and maybe this symbolism is somehow hereditary, like imprinted through the past of each generation through their DNA, maybe. That's also something that has been proved to a certain point to this day, I think. But this interaction is exactly like going in a sail, sailing in through the ocean, and you try to get to a shore, to a new horizon, but you have no compass. And that's something that, I don't know, is exciting, but only life is too short to fully explore.
Do you think that's going on with our books and our stories too, or do you think they're just all the same in different clothing and makeup? Do you think
I
we're actually capable of creating new stories, or even like you were talking about your our DNA evolving and changing? Um, can we do that with our stories?
mm, I think there is a reminiscent in the past in everything we do, even
Hmm.
if we are not aware. But we can create new stories and give them a new meaning, for better or for worse, I believe.
Why do you think some of those stories don't have that impact that I don't know, they're not, to me anyway, maybe this is just I'm the only guy in the room, but a lot of newer movies just don't have that zest. They don't have that punch, that inspirational hook for me. Maybe it's because I'm old or whatever, and this is just the newer generation of people, and it's inspiring to them, and they love it. Maybe. Um, I don't know. Or do you think there is a loss of meaning in our stories?
I think old stories were uh, some kind of medium for the audience to reach the message on their own. The stories nowadays seems to try to push the message and shove it right down in your throat.
Mm,
People really don't like that. Like, they are doing all this introspection for them and telling them, okay, this is what you will believe now. So
mm.
fuck you. You will believe this thing.
I see. Yeah.
Instead of putting the set, like uh, going to a theater, you know, the scenery, the costumes, you are part of the story. You are living the story. The story is not showing itself, it's unwrapping itself slowly, and you are pulled by that narrative. That's what I think most successful stories truly do. Is this thing, this old saying, show but don't tell,
Right.
because the person will absorb the message through their own senses and come to the conclusions of their own. That's the grace of telling something. But when they tell you this is it, period, it loses its charm. It's this kind of, what is this belief? Scientific reductism, I think, that
Mm.
it just present the fact and you have to believe it because it's irrefutable by that point. But by being scientific at its core, it's open to be refuted. It's an idea that keeps evolving instead of set in stone, and think try
Right.
to put things set in stone.
Do you guys feel like video games have successfully taken up the torch in that? I've played some pretty inspiring games. I feel like there is a lot of deep meaning that's missing in maybe mainstream movies, but in games, it seems like that concept is alive and well.
Yeah, in that sense, I've heard that a lot of people involved or used to be involved in like the movie business, like writers and stuff. That there's quite a bit of them have moved towards like the gaming industry. It's something what I read like a long time ago. So maybe that kind of explains it. Like there's more of an, I guess, an interest in that and writing these, I guess, more interactive stories in that sense.
I will say, as far as the corporatization of storytelling is concerned, there's, both video games and movies. They're both going to have to fulfill monetary interests, of course, but I feel like video games allow for a little more freedom because there's more and more game developers making games for more and more niche audiences, whereas movies, for the most part, like, so many of them come out of the same place, Hollywood, and they're all just trying to hit the same sort of storytelling notes beat for beat in order to, rake in that money. And as a result, it kind of breeds a sort of inauthenticity that you just don't find as much of in video games. And yeah, not to mention the participatory aspect of video games.
Yeah. Yeah. Max, you said you had to go. Maybe.
Yeah, pretty much right now.
Yes.
Second, yeah.
I just want to say, like, awesome to have you on, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for chilling, man. It was cool talking to you.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime I get to talk about Jung is a good day.
Right on, man.
Yes.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Okay. Take care.
See you, man.
Take care,
Take
man.
care.
Peace.
Okay.
So what?
Yeah.
So what were you saying, man?
Sorry.
What were you saying?
Oh, that was pretty much it.
Okay.
I guess if we look at a movie and video game producers as sort of pseudo shamans, the storytellers in our society, then yeah, you just get a little more authentic storytelling out of video games in general.
Mm-hmm.
Not that, they're not guilty of it just the same. Look at EA, look at, the game mills that are just pumping out the same games every year with a different skin. But
All right. Yeah, there's a lot of just newer people making games, telling a good story, and making some money. There's still a place, there's still an industry for genuine, meaningful storytelling. I suppose is the silver lining for me. It's like it's the Wild West still a little bit. Largely people can do
In several of my movie
kind of whatever they want to
interpretation
do,
videos,
and it'll have a different rating system, access to people that can buy it or whatever. But man, there's all kinds of games out there with different stories to tell. Some are good, some are really messed up, some are just really downright cruel. But there's all of these different things kind of playing out in this interactive medium. And that's crazy. I watched this documentary about the beginning of first-person shooter games and 3D modeling and in a game environment, and I was just like, man, we're super obsessed with this whole thing. Like, they just had to get out this like Quake game or Doom and do it in such a way that's just going to blow everybody away. And I'm like, why? And it's apparent now. It's the main way that we're able to tell the stories that we want to tell, because you're in it. Like, you're doing the story. And some of the more popular and interesting ones is like where you have choices and multiple endings. Everybody wants that. They want to be able to choose what to do, and they want their choices to matter. I think that's even like a tag in Steam, like choices matter. Like, what? You click on it, and it's like these whole list of RPG games where what you do matters throughout the game. What you do, how you write your story matters. So I remember, like, those old text and type game adventures where you type in something and you can have different outcomes. They've just merged that with really nice graphics and a good story. Choose your own adventure game.
So
Yeah.
on that note, I think it's kind of funny. There's always sort of a collective ire amongst gamers when you hear like, oh, your choices matter and you get to do all this stuff and it affects the ending. And then you get a game like, I guess, Deus Ex, where you can kind of just do anything, or specifically Human Revolution, where you can kind of just do anything you want throughout the game, and then it doesn't really matter up until the very end. And then it's just like, oh, you just press a different button and you get a different cutscene. But like ultimately, it's all just kind of the same, game all the way through, and your choices don't matter too much.
Yeah.
So clearly, people want their choices to matter. They want that sort of agency. And when you advertise the sense of agency and then give sort of a false interpretation of that, it's prone to making gamers angry. But then again, what isn't?
Yeah. I really thought Mass Effect did a good job of that, especially 1 and 2. I like, there was this whole option tree with Mass Effect where you're at this Citadel battle, this giant epic space battle, and you can either save the council of aliens or let them die, on purpose, and then install them all with human council members, or you could save them, or you could let them die and then just put new alien members on that you like. And that choice follows you throughout all 3 of the games. And I thought that was pretty wild. Like, stuff you did all the way from the first game mattered.
Absolutely.
More. I thought that was really wild. And those are the same people that did Knights of the Old Republic, and that was the first time that I encountered that, was playing that game. I was like, oh, what? I get to pick what I'm doing and saying, and I was like a teenager. That blew me away. I was like, that's cool. What do I do? I had to really think, like, what should I say? I don't know. This is a new thing. I thought that was wild. Really wild.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of a game that do the exact same thing, but in reverse. The game that came after Undertale, I think, is called Deltarune. In
Yeah.
that game, you have no agency whatsoever. In fact, the player is the alien influence, the grand mastermind behind the scenes that is controlling, let's just say, the unconscious of the
Man.
characters, manipulating them like puppets. You are invading their lives, but it's a fucking video game. It's a script, but it
Right.
puts the player in the uncomfortable place of being this great unknown villain that is deciding for them, and they don't know it. They don't know it's you. It's quite
Whoa.
funny.
Whoa, man, that's heavy. See, there's good stuff out there. It's just not where it used to be. It's like all the good stuff migrated. I don't know where it'll go next. I wonder how long games will ride this wave of meaning, like how movies did for a long time. I think books, are a solid thing. Books are always going to be the main place we go get our meaning because somebody has to take a really long time, think it out, think it through, put it in pen and paper, what they think, what's going on in their head, and lay it all out in like 1,000 pages. But I think that's an attractive thing about games too. You do that with the code. Sorry, go ahead, man.
Sorry. It's got like a delay and lag and difficult to deal with. Anyway, what was I going to say regarding meaning? Well, I feel like, we're always going to be able to derive meaning from literally any form of storytelling, even the most inauthentic. Like, take the Marvel movies, for instance. I kind of feel like this homogenization of stories that we're seeing in a lot of forms of media is representative of a homogenization of thoughts of both the conscious and unconscious mind, and well, maybe not the unconscious, but I don't know. That's something that does kind of scare me on a guttural level. Is you're seeing that groupthink sort of coalesce in the stories we tell, especially out here in the West. But what you were saying about what was it? Sorry, I'm distracted at the moment. I guess good storytelling kind of moving over to video games. I feel like it's always gonna have. God, no, I don't know. It's very difficult to put some of these thoughts into words.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I understand. Sometimes it is very difficult. Yes.
Maybe the movies could never do what the games can do because they like bridge this gap between movie and book and expand it in a way because a game can be as long or longer than reading a book. And you get to pick what happens. It's just a new thing. It's just a whole other thing. And you got like hundreds of people, all these dudes and chicks just like typing and drawing and, scanning and copying and printing all this stuff to make a game. Like, I was reading about how long it took to make Red Dead Redemption 2. Like, those people like started to lose their mind, like go insane from making this game. But it's a really good game, right? Like you just get way into that whole story out there, riding a horse and having all these decisions to make. You can have it. There's just something that's going on over by a tree, and if you don't do something within like a split second, it already saved. It already auto saved to that. So sorry, unless you want to go way back to some earlier save. So it's very intentional on all of these little choices that you do and all these outcomes and punishes you outright. I thought that was very interesting playing that whole game. And I thought, man, how much work did that take? And then I looked into it. It's like a lot. Like those people lost their minds making that game, making all those little choices and all those little animated stories that take place on the side of the main story. like all this dialogue, the things that they're doing with their hands, and if they're jumping around. Like somebody had to animate that. I thought that was crazy.
Although the thing where I put my boundary will be virtual reality, at least for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, me too, Dan. But yeah. Do you think that's where everybody's going to want to jump in and just sit in this fucking chair all day and have some goggles on, and they have like a liquid Cheeto tube into their mouth, and they just never leave?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the next big thing where we will be disconnected from the physical reality and replaced with an electronic one.
Yeah.
Then we have this artificial metaphysical world where everything is some kind of electronic spirit. And
Right.
you won't know it. You won't know the difference. You will start to lose this connection with your own physical sensations. You won't be grounded. You will be fed by a stimuli only through the electronic. And no, fuck no, I don't want that.
Yeah,
man.
no, I get that. I kind of feel like in a similar vein with like all of this AI art, it's like going in also like some weird direction too, and it seems like, I don't know, I kind of feel like a lot of these things kind of are somewhat interconnected, of like, I guess all of this like singularity stuff that's kind of going on with robots and all that, and I kind of feel like it's almost like we're I don't know, like humanity, or like well, maybe not like humanity, maybe like there's a fraction of people really, because it's, if you think about it, like the people who make it, and then they're the people who follow that stuff. It's like, I guess they want to really, really desperately keep the left brain only rational side to them, and they want to become maybe like in some sense robots or well, these different things that are not fully human anymore. And I think it comes back to like what you had a dream about, Neirum, that you talked in part 1 about or like God mentioned in part 1 at least, about like these people transcending, and they're just a floating brain basically with this like kind of like yeah. And I kind of feel like a lot of that is kind of that, and there is something going on with regards to that, and I do feel like that there's the grounding essence needed with that. And I do think like Kali in some sense represents that in an unconscious collective sense, because it's like kind of what her purpose is to really like ground the human being again, to like, because she cuts off the heads of demons. The demons represent false consciousness, and then it's kind of like this like escapism into the brain being cut off, and then being brought back down into the body. And it's said that both Kali, but also Kalbarava, it's like an aspect of Shiva. They're like the wrathful self. So it's like it's a form of the self, but in its wrathful form. And I do think like, because there's like, especially with Kali and such like imagery, something there, and it's being like kind of I guess seen as this devouring thing, and oh my god, this is so scary. Kind of like thing, but I don't feel like it is, and I think what's really hiding behind that is really like, I guess the feminine, but the anima too, but really I would say Mother Earth, and like the instincts and biology and the ecosystem, and that's kind of like what's behind all of that, and that's kind of what is calling, but it's being seen in I guess the culture as this scary monster, this scary thing, and to some degree, like, yes, we have been fighting like the snake and now like the octopus and these different like forms that this takes in like cultural depictions, but at the same time, if you understand a lot of these things from like a grander perspective, of like how people used to at least understand it in like ages long gone, and I'm talking here like Bronze Age and before, that there was a need to break free, but also a need to come back, to come back to I guess a relationship with the self, but also nature in that sense.
Yeah, it's an extremely important part of everything. The trees, the animals, grass, all the different shrubs that have berries on them, the water, the fish, the whole thing, man. It's really healthy to go out into it, to be a part of it, to go camping. I mean, maybe I don't know, sucks sometimes when it rains. Got to be prepared and have this and that. I mean, I can see why we live inside, is what I'm getting at, but it's good. It's good to go outside still, even if you don't want to, and see what's out there, because it's really crazy. We came out of that into all of this, and we're talking on, computers and phones across the planet. That's pretty cool.
To put it into a few words, will be, well, I guess we will be missing out if we just synthesize all the things we have talked about. But the thing of the collective unconscious is that we are basically, each one of us, part of this great unknown. We somehow affect it, and we are changed by it in return to some degree. It's like a symbiotic relationship with the world, a world that we cannot perceive, but we can define it, at least in a very subtle way, by first knowing ourselves, our strengths, our weaknesses, our fears. And it's basically, I think, about honesty, I believe.
Yeah.
Not deceiving ourselves. We can lie to other people, but lying to ourselves is pointless, basically. So we get out from there and we see how it goes, because this journey is very personal, and giving a very structured advice on it, um, it will be even counterproductive for others.
Good
But
evening.
hello, welcome
Man.
back.
How are you all doing?
Good,
Hey,
man.
Anastasios.
Good.
Hello.
Yes. Hello.
I'm very glad. I'm doing good as well.
Yeah.
Can you
So,
guys hear?
yes, LazyEzyWolf. We can hear you now.
You landed.
I'm I'm using my phone, so it's like a little bit better than the laptop. But hello everyone.
What's up?
Yes.
Hello to you as well.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm sitting here in my home and having a fire in the oven here, so it's nice.
Excellent.
Sounds great. Sounds great. We were just talking a bit about all the collective unconscious. MysteriousStranger was a bit as usual, kind of saying a lot of deep things, and yeah, I do feel like with a lot of this, it is indeed like how you said, MysteriousStranger. It is it is a personal journey, and in that sense, even though like there's like these collective things going on, these collective forces and all of that, but it's how we as individuals, as people interact well with it. And I think it's I think it is something that we can in a way learn more of it in a personal sense of like how to have this dance with the unknown, or in that sense, kind of like the invisible world, how you could call it, but also like I guess the world in of itself too. It's a matter of like figuring out like how to do it properly and have this like I guess like how you put it, like this symbiotic relationship going on.
Another good thing will be to tell the difference between our own emotional state and the emotional state of others that is projecting into us. Like if someone is already angry and they don't really want to talk about it or face it, you can know this person, or it could be a perfect stranger, someone that you don't know at all, and they for some reason are being very nasty to you personally. You can react in the same manner, and you then assimilated that emotional state that was projected onto you by their own unmanaged unconscious. And then you will react and be angry as well. And it will be a vicious cycle. It's not good. I don't say it's correct or incorrect, moral or not. I just say that you let yourself be affected unwillingly by just accepting the things that are given to you. And this kind of miscommunication between what's going around you and what's going deep inside you, you have the choice to always take a step back, recollect yourself, and then react. I don't say that you will put the other cheek, because, well, you can also do that, but I don't really recommend it. You have to preserve your own dignity, your self worth, your self respect, and you can be respectful in putting other people in their place because they cannot be managed. You cannot micromanage every person you came across, but you can be mindful of your own emotions and choose how you feel in those kind of
I
moments.
agree. I agree in this very much, and it reminds me a bit like Buddhism, and also a bit like surpassing the tragedy of the world, like in ancient Greek tragedy. You see all these tragic heroes that they get into a frenzy, a blindness, and they are hell-bent to commit an offense. Like Zeus is called Alastor, that it comes from Allah and Istor, the one who changes one's understanding, one's views of things. And by changing this root of history inside their mind, like they start to commit like grave crimes. And after they commit this, they meet their nemesis, the adversity, and then they are broken by the payment, thesis. And many people in ancient Greek tragedy, they say you get a catharsis after this, but it is not only from understanding the mistakes of the heroes and how things work, but it is also by understanding that there is this falsehood, like this not taking enough responsibility about the world, like standing up to the situation, like I did these grave mistakes, I have to mend it. to do something about it. Like I have to face my actions. I have to see other people as they are, not to be, as Stranger said, not to be absorbed like by their pathology in a sense. And pathology also, it is not bad by itself always. Passion and pathology have the same root. To feel the passion, but not to be drifted away by it.
Yeah, to like ride the wave, surf the wave, and not wipe out.
Yes, and in a way, this is a gamble you put with yourself on the line.
Yeah.
Metaphorically, it has to do a lot with our spine. Like, you see, he put his back on the wall, standing up. You have also the sense of resurrection, like Rhine and so on. All of this has to do with our axis, like our spine standing up. And then you have idioms like, oh, he is a spineless person. He doesn't have this to stand up and stand against like his fortune. And then you have the person who is who has a backbone. There is only one backbone. This is our spine. And also the word authentic has to do with this. It is referred to Oedipus and Colono, Oedipus tyrant, in a tragedy, and it is Aftoendis. It is the one who chooses when to finish, when to die in a sense, but by putting yourself, your existence on the line, you try to step on the adverse situation and turn it on, turn it up, like change the situation as it is going to be.
This sounds like the conundrum of the storytelling. You can be passive and let others write your story for you. Or you take the pen and write the story by your own hands. Your own story. I think that's the thing with all these tales and myths. The option is there, but now is not intuitive enough for people to understand this very point. Or even we find justifications by why we didn't do these things. Like, I wanted to respond to this person, but I didn't. I was ashamed by whatever reason, or the situation didn't allow it. We find these kind of reasonings to justify it, like you've been taught to just follow. It's weird.
Yes, and sometimes also by reacting, we get trapped. For example, there is a sense, oh, I have to do first this to do the other thing. Sometimes, yes, you have to have a series of tasks, but sometimes when other people say it especially, and the value and what is worth on your life, you have to stand up to it by yourself. It cannot be bought by proving yourself doing something else or by buying it. And I'm thinking sometimes this image of a Tarzan-like person, like that was a movie. I think it is a bit old, 90s or 80s, that there is a Tarzan in New York, or the dandy man, like with a crocodile, the Australian person. Or there are people who seem a bit off, but they are freer than the others. They seem a bit aloof, but they are not in the programming in a sense. They have their own natural way of moving and thinking and doing. And it is this authenticity, I think, even more than sometimes acting on something, because even an actor is a subject in the end. You have to be real, but like authentic, really, like to be your own.
I think in that sense, a lot of this also comes in. I think of just indeed like being authentic, and in that sense, I guess like the myths and stories, they tell a lot, and they are very helpful too. But in the end, there's also, you know, one's own story and one's own, I guess, myth in some sense. And the thing is that, but you know, coming back to like, you know, like bringing the collective unconscious part of it into it, it's like, well, you know, I don't think there's like in that sense with these different stories and what is all going on, like a way of I guess not participating in it in some sense, unless, well, one would be a hermit. But I think in some sense, like, we're all participating in all kinds of different, well, stories, but we have to also kind of realize like which one is ours, and try to I guess really reconnect to ourselves, and create that time for that to be able to do so that we can I guess introspect and see this this, I guess, fuller image of ourselves that sometimes we miss, that we don't see.
Really interesting thoughts, guys, having, and like in that sense of being authentic, like I have to say, like, now this is kind of like at the moment I don't know if, like, I'm thinking like how do you grow as a person, and like you have to face your fears, and like I been seeing, like, in a sense myself, like, as always, I don't know, like going away from the like responsibility. So now just right now I'm going like to my worst fear is like speaking up to other people, and then like in a way trying to find that authentic self. So that's what I want to share right now.
It has to do a lot with this that you said, to be in time a bit. I think, I'm not sure. Also, I like very much the motorcycle background that we have. It is very wandering.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
The wanderer.
Yes. I would really like to say to you, LazyEzyWolf, like it's something that Carl Jung also said. It's basically one's task lies in where one's fear is, and I do think that you know, it's something that takes courage and in that sense, and I guess one becomes braver for it. It's like, it's not truly like that the fear I guess completely subsides. Maybe at some point, maybe, I don't know. But what I do know is that facing it is one important step in this entire journey, and I think that I don't know. It's just something that that one can do, but I guess one can do it alone. But in certain sense, but it's always good to do it with others, too.
This
agree.
with fear, it reminds me a bit of this dialogue in Batman, the third movie of Nolan. Like that says, I don't fear anything. And the old person says, fear is the essence of life. How can you fight longer than possible? Like do longer than possible, succeed the impossible if you don't have the most like vital feel motion of the human soul, something like this. Fear,
Hmm.
that you need the fear of failure, and
Yeah.
also the sense of
Are you?
anxiety. I feel
Yeah.
disconnected.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah. LazyEzyWolf. What did you want to say?
Um, no, I like want just I don't know, like want like how you say like how you face your fears is like interesting in that sense. Like you know the we're talking about the unconscious collective. I mean, in like just sharing some of my own experiences that like being out in the you know surfing waves, surfing like being out in the ocean and surfing waves, and that's like one of been facing like one of like really like surfing big waves and being like in the moment of uh like near death experience. Is that like when you're alone in the ocean? Is that also like part of I don't know, the unconscious collective? I don't know what I'm really getting at here, but like is like
Um. mhm.
elements of life, is it part of it, or is it more like like human consciousness, or are we like also part of I don't know,
Something.
the water, the water, the air, the elements of life, I guess.
I would. Well, one thing is the ocean is kind of or like is a representation of the collective unconscious. It's represented by an ocean, or the unconscious in general is represented by the ocean. And I would kind of say like in a deeper level, because I mean if you see like where we come from really as humanity, and like and our or kind of our deep connection to nature, even though like I don't know, in some sense sometimes one might not see it in the modern world that much anymore, but it's still there. And in that sense, I would say yes to it really being a part of it, because I mean different things within the subconscious and like symbolism shows up as like as trees, as different animals, but also the sky, a particular star, or different aspects like that are kind of, well, their own thing, but they're still part of us, because I mean we live in this world, and in that sense there, I mean yes, I mean that I guess that one could say there's a boundary between us and other living beings, but also like the I guess the material world in of itself too, but kind of also not, because I mean if you really think about it, it's like we are deeply connected to everything else, because I mean just think about eating. If you just eat, I mean, that what you eat is kind of like Sadhguru says that a lot. How it's kind of an accumulation of kind of other things that then becomes you, and before it was not you. And I don't think there is really, in that sense, that much of like separation of it, even though we see it as such. Because I mean, if you think about it, a lot of the stuff that we eat then gets transformed in many various ways, and then it becomes part of that again. But regarding the ocean, like, that's definitely part of it. And and surfing in it, I bet it has effects psychologically, and especially near death experiences and things like that, and such experience in of itself. And it reminds me also of like the Mayas. They had like these underwater cave systems, and they were deeply connected to the gods and different underground deities, kind of. And in that sense, well, I do think, like, yeah, these things are connected to it, and we I guess Jung would say project, but like we see these things outside, but they're at the same time like within as well.
Yeah, like in our stories, we put them out there, but they're, you know, coming from somewhere, and we all seem to collectively recognize these things that we're putting down on the paper or in the movie or in the video game. Otherwise, people wouldn't buy it. You know, there's a whole economy based off of this, that people are reconnoitering, they're reorganizing it, they're putting their eggs in different baskets. And as we were talking about earlier, the VR, you know, and the Cheeto tube to your mouth, and you're just kind of playing video games all day. That's a very real danger. I mean, that's a legitimate fear that could happen. But I think, you know, people will get tired of that. I don't think everybody's going to want to do that. Never has there been a point in time where everybody wants to do the same thing. And that's a blessing, you know. It's like, great. We all don't want to do the same exact thing. Plenty of people want to go do this thing or that thing and have nothing to do with what's going on with the Cheeto tubes and the VR and the weird chairs that people buy to sit in for their VR time. Whatever. Well, all the things. The suits that they want to wear, like these pneumatic pressure suits. It's creepy, man. You know, but that's a real manifestation of something internal, like this strange internal desire to live in a fantasy world and not try and to give up on the real world is what it is. It's like they give up. Don't know what to do. It's too many problems to fix. Too many people are arguing. Just too much, and they just want to play the video games.
Yeah.
Because it gives that sense of accomplishment. The story is extremely engaging. In fact, the story is addictive, right? Like, I gotta see what happens. It's just like a book, you know. It's when you start reading a book, sometimes you'll stay up late and finish reading the book, right? Like, get to the end.
Yeah.
But there's something about video games that really hacks into that part, and it expands it.
Actually, Dark Souls has a bit of sense that you get into a very deterministic and driven state, using all your productive force, even overcoming your anxiety and adversity, but yet you are controlled like by forces inside the Dark Souls history dynamics in a sense. And even the character has some qualities, like he doesn't question stuff, he doesn't go beyond a way. Like there is also a lot of, I think very crucial is also a bit disappointment and this thing that you see people becoming hollow in Dark Souls, the sense of giving up, like losing hope.
And like really interesting topic again about the virtual reality. I think yeah it's in that sense like it's happening and it's going to happen and people are gonna go there and I'm this picture that I have, this is like an NFT of a brand called Creeps. So I was just to give you like a little bit about what it is. It's like they're building a metaverse into the virtual reality, and there's like people working on it to I guess make it a beautiful one. So in that sense that people it's gonna be built anyway, and for those people who are going to go there, I like that's why I was becoming a part of this NFTs. I don't know if you heard about the non-fungible tokens. This is
Yeah.
on the crypto on Ethereum network, and so I had this journey myself on last winter that okay I was kind of like really badly hurt and I couldn't move and I decided like I couldn't do anything, so I was on the computer for a long time, and then I decided to go and see what these NFTs are all about, and these guys are trying to build this virtual reality, and there's some really good people, but I guess with good intentions you can make shitty stuff anyway. But what I guess what I'm saying is that this is going to happen, and I just I'm hopeful that there's gonna be it's gonna be a good one, and that people can go there and actually like yeah, meet people and be in this game world, and to, so because it's gonna be built anyway, so that was kind of like the thought. I went there deep into it, but now like I have not been active for a while, but so it's as scary as it is like it can bring good and positive things to lives. We're connecting over to each other like around the world, which is good. Like-minded people can connect, but
I wonder, for example, this is very important that you said, like the productive part of it. And also I was thinking, like developing skills through VR. Like what is your opinion on this? Like you create a VR like situation that you have to solve a problem and you don't solve it in real life, but in a sense like you impersonate like in this problem and you try to turn it. Like there is VR from flying something to training to different stuff. Like one tries to learn boxing through VR.
For example, and a music making, movie making, like it's kind of like endless what you can do in that sense.
Yes, and it reminds me to these reflections and trying to correct reflections reminds me to a sense like a lot that you have many memes today. Like you have many memes. This person specifically knows this. A real man is like this, and you have to man up. Why? Because it was brought up like the topic of manliness and manhood and how should one live his life, and also connected to the meaning and identity. But then you start to make, in a sense, some stats that you want to fill up. Like this can be that many people online are speaking about testosterone levels or about becoming fighting. Because you cannot become fighting, then there is a dendrogram again, and this looks something very program like. It becomes like VR, like you go to Marines, like, but because you cannot go really because you want to do other things, you go to the Marines challenge, or you go to write yourself in martial arts, or you go to a very difficult work that is under stress and you have to manage it. Like I start to see like many micro parts like that you have to pass through doors in order to get somewhere. And I don't know if it was always like this.
Um, like that, what you just said, like brought me to this space that, if once a person have to like learn through life different skills, you could be putting into like this virtual world and like face all those fears in a sense. And yeah, this is just an idea. I have lots of ideas like facing those fears, and I don't know.
Hmm. I don't know.
I think
Yeah. Go ahead, MysteriousStranger.
I think in video games they are trying to reproduce aspects of the physical reality in order to integrate certain things. For on one hand, it must be stimulating. In the other, people have to relate to what they're doing. The story or the mechanic that lets you experience um, the the game, that be in a video game or VR. It must be stimulating and have a sense to relate to, and it must be, by all things, meaningful. But what is meaningful to you? And that's the subjective part of it. And there are very few things that I can think of universally meaningful, like becoming having this sense of success, but the success only comes after going through a hardship. You overcome these obstacles, then at the end the success becomes meaningful. How difficult or how relatable or stimulating those hardships are to the person will vary from one individual or the other. But just generally speaking, just in your life, how many hardships have you overcome without realizing it? Right? Because if you don't realize it, then it doesn't become meaningful. And that is where introspection comes into play, where you reflect on your past actions to determine the future ones. And well, if that is integrated into video games or books, movies, all the more power to it. But we don't need these things, this entertainment, as a replacement of the real thing. I think that is important.
Yeah, I kind of feel like in some sense it's like, I guess in some sense there's a particular something that can fulfill regarding like books and different stories, but at the same time, yes, there needs to be also, I guess, something like happening in the real sense, and an actual like take a lot of the, I guess, a lot of modern games and like kind of like, well, with Elden Ring too, but and Dark Souls and Bloodborne and all these different games, also KOTOR that got mentioned. It's kind of all part of the hero's journey, and it is kind of something that one I don't know, kind of has one is kind of obligated to take. That's something that you kind of wrote about, because if one does not take it, it's there's a risk to become swallowed up by kind of the forces that one it's I guess like in some sense either the masculine in some sense, or the feminine in some sense, that then becomes a bit too overbearing, that then doesn't get overcome, and this freeing of the self, but then also like, I guess, the reintegration of the self into the grander scope of the community, and in that sense also the collective, really, and that one has this also the proper boundaries that one builds up through it, because one first frees themselves, and then you kind of reconnect in a way, and but you do that by it's kind of like a recreation of that kind of like I guess the relationship between what is you and what is seen as other, and how you interact with that. And I think, like, yes, video games and movies and stuff like that, like, it has an effect on the brain, and it has an effect on consciousness, and I bet the unconscious too, because like a lot of stuff that you see like gets reflected in dreams and in different different things that come up from it. Even art can get like I guess like have this kind of like influence from different things that it just always has. It's like nothing. It's like, when is something truly, I guess, authentic in that sense? But what and like from the subconscious, it takes the different forms. But the thing is, what I feel is important in all that, and that is just that, I don't know, regarding the games and the videos and stuff, like, it is shown with like studies that it has an effect, and that the brain can't distinguish between what is happening in the story, what you're reading, what you're seeing or playing, and between what is actually going on in one's real life. But at the same time, it's still, I guess, important, really, to just do that still, to really.
It reminds me a bit, like, from one sense, it is so engaging because it has the force of growing and the passion of this going through and so on. And then it gets the sense of novelty a lot, but it has also something childish like in these games that the situation is leading you towards a destiny, it is like an adult taking you from the hunt, in a sense. There is not a completely sense of being thrown out in the world. Like sometimes, even though I haven't read a lot of passages of Nietzsche, I get the sense that in Nietzsche, human is thrown naked into the world. Like you get this sense, and this, even though it is cruel, it gets you a bit more freedom. Whereas, like in Dark Souls, like that we saw this game, like or Elden Ring, the places where you find rest are also where the firekeepers and so on are the more manipulative, like the mother figures. But you can even turn them like to your favor. But it is interesting, like this having authority over you by providing you.
Mm,
Well, I mean, that was heavy, man. Yeah, I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's definitely in line with the kind of stuff that we've been talking about.
Yes, and maybe individuation like has not levels exactly. I don't know if it is like ultimate individuation or like I see instances of individuation,
Hmm.
but it is something that was in my mind like from when I was small. Like I'm I real, like why I'm doing this. I had this a lot in my
Yeah.
thinking.
Regarding individuation, well, Jung described that there are different stages to it, and even before, like I guess individuation, there's other stages before that. It's kind of like part of the whole like hero's journey, and these kind of like what these myths say. Yeah, LazyEzyWolf, I think you might want to say something too.
Whom?
Yeah,
Please.
just
Sorry.
really good thoughts about the virtual reality. Yeah, I already like what you said, Mysterious Stranger. Like that it's how can you give that personal journey like for someone? I think it's nearly impossible in a game to make it like for you. So in that sense, it's impossible to like give that the perfect journey for growing up, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, you have really interesting thoughts, guys.
I, for one, am grateful that you are here today with us and talking about it. You know, you went through your own near death experience and you're still kicking around. That's fucking great.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Yeah,
Happy to be with you guys.
Yeah, man. The
yeah.
more the better.
Agreed. Yes, it's always awesome to have all you guys on.
Yeah, because it's like everybody just got a little piece of the puzzle, man, and like I got this thing, man. What does this mean? And well, I think it means this, this, and this, and then you just start putting it together. It just doesn't make any sense when you just sit around by yourself trying to figure the story out. You just start to lose your mind, I think. Like Sauron in his tower. And I think everybody likes Gandalf so much because he rides around and visits everybody and like interacts with the people. You know, and if you don't interact with anybody and bounce your ideas off of people, you don't know how crazy you're going. You know, you know what I mean. You're just having these crazy thoughts up in your tower and like writing it down as if it's the most profound thing ever. And it might not be. You know, it might be really crazy.
Yes, I think also this is like I wouldn't say the purpose exactly, but it is the merit of companionship,
Hmm.
fellowship, in a sense.
Yeah, the fellowship, exactly. Yeah, those are the good guys. It's like people teaming up together to figure something out. And, you know, nobody's sitting around like, oh, I have it figured out more than everybody, and I've read all the books. Like, you know, that only gets you so far. You know, there's a whole other parts of life outside, you know, real experience that I think is lost in a lot of these types of conversations. You know, you get too I don't know. Too something to where you don't get to your goal. Not enough of
Yes,
something else. I don't know what exactly.
in order to reach a goal, you need sincerity, and sincerity in action also. Like you are present and you face everything, and
Yep.
also you have a dynamic in a real place, and real place has people. It has fellowship. It
Hmm.
has real situations. It has dilemmas. It has challenges in life. It has sorrow but happiness too, and mellow also feelings. Like it is good.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. It's a good word for it. A fellowship. Yep.
In that sense, it's kind of what I see that this is, and it's like just different people like come and go and you know, hop on and off, but yeah, but I do think that that's kind of like the way to go with regarding to most things, because the thing is, in the end, while we're talking here about the collective unconscious, it's like in a way, like we all have our own unconscious and like what we're conscious about and what we know and what we see, but shared we know just so much more, and we can like really help each other to understand different things and see things from different angles and different perspectives.
Yes,
Totally.
this is awesome. Mm-hmm.
I concur.
Totally agree on the fellowship and like the getting together is a real thing.
How can one sort of interpret and tap into a collective sort of conscious unless one interacts with the collective?
Yeah. 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 Exactly.
Yes, and in a sense also it meant like the real communication between the different parts of consciousness. Like everyone, I never liked seeing collective consciousness as everyone being connected like in a big net, but mostly I was seeing it with the ability of everyone to be his own person, and they all together can see the sun, but from different, from a mountain, from a sea, they can see it while walking and doing something else, like, but they can see the sun, and they are who they are at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole concept that I loved about the round table, and Bass had the same ideas and archetypes in his head that I was talking about. That's the whole point of it. That whole weird arguing debate thing that's so popular now all over YouTube and the internet. Really, I'm done with that. That's crazy. I've had enough debates and arguments with people. It's like you're getting a constant war mode, instead of collaborative mode where you want to talk and work out ideas and put pieces together and actually get somewhere. Because you could get all these followers, like millions of people watching you and like free money thrown at you through ads, but it's like you're in a circus, and you're probably doing stuff and getting into fights or weird debates and saying stuff you really might not want to say just to get likes or something. You know what I mean?
This is bad to just want to get likes and debate.
Yeah.
Sometimes I debate with friends, like we organize a debate
Mm-hmm.
and we choose different teams each time. Most of it, we will be around 6 people, 3 people against 3. We say how we'll divide the teams. And then there is a final person that doesn't take position and he summarizes the debate. And sometimes I try not to choose what I believe about the situation, not so much to win whatever the circumstances, but like to stretch in itself the boundaries of like my perception. Like, am I truly believe in this? Do I have some kind of preoccupation? Also, can I practically go to another result and I believe in a different thing? Like challenging mostly my views. And I see it more as drilling. I wouldn't like to just engage in anger or to try like to take likes come and go.
Yeah. No, that's
Like,
great. You can organize that with your friends and do it. It's the Socratic method. That's what you guys are doing. You're just trying to earnestly explore all the angles of something and not get attached and identify with the topic. Like it's your baby or something. And that's a really important thing to do. I just don't see that very often. That'd be great if that was the biggest most popular form of entertainment that's taken over. I feel like it's a type of reality TV show itch people have, and it's scratching that. Like the over drama, or I don't know. You've seen these YouTubers and all the crazy stuff they do, and fights they get into each other, and Twitter battles, and it's like a giant reality TV show. Is what it
yeah,
looks like to me.
you scratch to see the blood to see the liveliness.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah,
By
exactly.
the way, two of the people who enter the debates are here, like MysteriousStranger and also Mr. Egg. I cannot like
Egg.
describe the name.
Nah,
Ne.
yeah. His name's Egg now. That's what I'm gonna be calling him.
Eggman.
Eggman. Or-
Man.
I'm just gonna say Egg. That's it. Just Egg.
Well, yeah, that's his nick here, Egg. But yeah.
The man of many names, I call him.
Man of many names, but now it's Egg.
Oh yeah. But yes, I think LazyEzyWolf.
Yeah, when you guys said about those, like it's all like these reality shows and like I don't know, the best the best informative like things I get out is like long podcasts, like long talks are like the most informative, like nowadays, like the Joe Rogan shows and all of these, like that's where I get the most out of, you know, when people have long talks and like yeah, go deep into any kind of topic. So uh and yeah, I like these are like the you know, channels that like to you know, follow. But then like yesterday, just, you know, I haven't been following anything funny lately or stuff like that, and then I found my brother had this channel 5, which is a YouTube channel as well, and there's this guy who he's just going among people and asking them question, or not asking a question, but interviews, and it's so goddamn funny. It's I don't know, strong. There's a strong man video of channel 5 that that was the most funny I've seen it in a while, if you want to watch. So I don't know.
I've heard people talk about it, but I haven't watched it. Is it like a British thing, or what country is it from? Or is it just a YouTube channel? That's just the name of it, Channel 5.
Yeah, it's I think this guy is he's American, but he goes around the world and does funny interviews, and it's like, you know, here you have a like really deep discussion about stuff. I'm really interested in that, but then like on the other hand, like I've been in my thoughts for thinking about stuff, but then it's so like I realized like it's nice to get back on the surface and have in a way like it's nonsense, but it's funny. I don't know. But,
What'd you say his name was?
Channel
Who's-
5.
Just Channel 5. I found this Andrew
Callahan. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I basically
okay.
just watched a couple of videos of him. So it was the strongman competition, but so like he's interviewing people, and he gets just under the skin of people somehow, and then they you know, they say what they actually think, you know, in a sense. He
Right.
gets under the skin of people somehow with his by being himself. He's like I don't know, don't take any like doesn't turn emotion, like doesn't get emotional at any point. It's just like
Just real stoic about it.
yeah, in a sense, yeah.
Right.
Okay, I'm jumping really off topic, but
And no, but I do think it's important to like, especially with like deep diving into like stuff like this and the deeper, like really deep stuff that like indeed one needs to like, I guess, come back to the surface and maybe like surf around on the waves for a while instead of like diving very deep.
Yeah, I mean, stoic people are kind of weird to me. I mean, I get what they're doing, um, but I don't know. It just kind of seems fake or something to me. Like, I don't know who you really are, man. Like, you're so stoic and serious all the time, and I kind of don't trust them. Like I understand what they're doing. Like total control. Like I'm a stone statue, and logic is my friend. Like you're a Vulcan or something. You know what I mean? Like those pointy-eared people on Star Trek. You're just like so super focused and on top of everything. It's like you're unrelatable. I don't know, but you're achieving a whole bunch of really crazy, cool, important stuff. Like that's great. Like real, I mean, awesome. Uh, but I don't know, man. It's just I'm just not like that. I
I
got
believe it is not, if it is not forced, or if it is forced again, it is bad. Uh, like it is not sustainable if it is forced. And I think it is not forced. It comes to something different, like it clear ups, it changes through time.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
was thinking of an analogy for the past minutes where we both need our right and left legs in order to walk,
Yeah.
literally. But in a psychic perspective, it's not so clear. Like, all right, you have two hemispheres. One seems more not rational, the other seems more passionate. But at the end of the day, you need both. And if you suppress one or the other, you will end up using a crutch to substitute the one you're suppressing. You will limp inside for as long as you allow it, I think. And in a way, what this person from this YouTube channel, Channel 5, seems to be doing doesn't seem truly a stoic. He seems to be deconstructing these boundaries people create, and then it takes away that crutch that person have. It's a very like a surgery. It's very precise. You have to know what really ticks people off, not just to bother them, but
Yeah.
to strip them of this sense of comfort in their comfort zone. And then they have to face that they are lacking in something. But you don't tell them, you just allow them to
Right.
experience that lack, that void or necessity that they created. And we all have these crutches to help us through our lives. Addiction is just an expression of these symptoms. I believe addictive relationships, addiction to substances, addiction to video games, even addiction to religion. In a way, when we become too idiotic, not even religious topics, but also political topics. We take these crutches to help us not fall, because the nature of things is that they want to live, they want to thrive. But when you are sabotaging yourself, the unconscious creates these convenient leeways for you. You don't face them head on, but it's a hint, like a potion, like giving you a cup, a chalice with poison. It
Yeah.
seems so tenderizing, but it's a vice, and that's the dark aspect of your own unconscious. What we refer when we call the shadow about Jung. This is the shadow, the creating the necessity of these things. But yes, it takes time to take away those crutches, and I will be a hypocrite to say that I don't have any. I do have. I do have a lot. And
Yeah, yeah. That it's right. It's right. One would be a hypocrite to say one doesn't have, but in some sense, I don't know. I was kind of just also just thinking like, I think you're really onto to something there, Mysterious Stranger, with that regarding the left and the right brain, and I do think like, yeah, we need to figure out like how to like bring those two together, and yeah, like the left and the right leg, to be able to walk and to like cooperate with it, instead of like yeah, repressing something into the shadow, into something like, that we want to forget, but like a lot of the times it like expresses itself then through like addictive behaviors and like games and stuff like that to like compensate for it, but it also kind of creates like what you said, one, or like if you go to one other extreme, like one extreme, then the other extreme is gonna come as like a counterforce to try to like negate it and make it balanced again, and it's just kind of like, I guess, the law of nature regarding these things, to like, and I guess like these crutches help us to like, I guess, stay afloat and like keep this like, I guess, inner conflict at bay, but in the end, like, yeah, that's, I guess, what that is.
I was like I thought of a pawn like with cooperate. If they don't cooperate, they cooperate, like from cope.
Hmm.
and, and also
I guess
took
that's
a
true.
class.
They become those philosophers, right?
Yes, sort of. You try to condense everything in one, and then maybe cooperation is the shadow part of cooperation.
Hmm.
And I was thinking also like in legs, yes, you have the right and the left, but also you have the rising and the falling of the leg, and you have the destination. If you don't have though the rising and the falling of its leg, like they cannot walk. Also, the wings of a bird have to let down and go up again to flap. And then they have to have a destination in mind when they want to, where they want to go. But if the bird only wants to go up, like it will lift the wings up, or it will tense the muscle all the time, after a bit, it will feel heavy and fall. If it drops down, it will take a shot to the land, like it will land very badly. And I was thinking it, even in movement, there is a recoil that may have to do with a different kind, high and up, high and down in a sense. And as a third part, I put a crotch of my own near me. I put a wine because I like very much the discussion. I enjoy only to drink if I have company. Alone, I never drink. But
It's
yes, discussions like this I like.
it's too early for me, Anastasios. It's noon, but if it wasn't, I will join you.
Yes, like it is now 8:25 p.m. here.
But I guess that's the thing. It's not that you are drawn. I always have problems with this word. I swear. You
It is not by chance, by the way. To
you don't
drown and to drink is the same root.
like you don't draw your sorrows with a bottle, but you are enjoying the experience and somehow are drinking in the spirit of the conversation because it's enjoyable. It's not a selfish passion. It's not something to cover it up. is you are enjoying it. That's the difference between an addiction and an act. It's not a vice in this case, I think.
Like, how can I say? I put the wine for around 20 minutes plus. And because I enjoyed the discussion, I didn't touch
And that's how you're supposed to drink, I believe. Cheers.
it. Yeah. Cheers.
I love that. I love that part. Thank you for sharing. I have some vices as well. Now I've been listening to you, and I haven't been smoking a cigarette while listening and talking. So I guess it's all been helpful.
That's awesome to hear. That's really awesome to hear. Yeah, I don't know if y'all have anything more to say about like the collective unconscious part or the unconscious really in general. Maybe or like at least regarding like the episode part. Maybe you want to wrap it up. We can like stay a bit after still and talk more.
Like, we can bring a bit the sense of memes and the archetypes, like in the collective unconscious. And like, if we can even be confronted by archetypes, like not only be possessed or in a sense be guided by archetypes. This is also a thing, but you can even have like times some type of archetype that brings you adversary. I cannot completely explain it. Like, you meet this in your real life all the time, this kind of difficult situation. It can be like for a girl having very bad boyfriends, or for a man like facing the fear of his anima in a sense, or you see a society that cannot stand economically for a long time, and also it can have the golden child syndrome in a sense. And this can be even in like in a collective sense. You can even have the warrior like confronting you, like fighting difficult situations all the time, and people confronting you, like you have a country that fights a lot, or you have a lot of people like, oh, why all the time when I go to streets I have to get into street fights? But in a sense, like reversed, you have this in you. You expose it, like it is like a signal. I cannot explain it completely. And you see it's something like out of you, but you have the other part of the puzzle in you, and you draw this thing towards you. Like negative not negative reinforcement, like negative attraction, in a sense.
I do know that in the sense of like archetypes that it is Jung himself that connected the archetypes in its well to the instincts, and then there's like the at least like part to some degree, or like at least like quite a few of them are linked to that. At the same time, there's like others that are like, I guess you could say part of like what in psychology called complexes, and it's a kind of like these like, you could call them really just thought patterns, and like learned behaviors, kind of in that sense, and well, they are really, I guess, part of us, and we're kind of like, it's kind of like within us, and at the same time, like we're I guess in a lot of ways trying to like resolve something that is within us by something, by doing something externally, because I mean it's kind of like what I guess that's really the egos, or like the I guess consciousness's normal focus is to go outward and face things in that sense, you know, and then going inward is like is something else and entirely for it. But I mean, there used to be like rituals, at least, to like overcome these things in ritualistically in a ritualistic manner. But regarding these archetypes and these things on faces, I guess a part of it is I guess like trying to understand them in some sense, and to try to see like the bigger picture of them, like both their light and their dark form, what they take, and try to understand like what is it actually what I'm dealing with, and then through being conscious of that, then you can start to like see these things within oneself, and really see like, hey, wait, it's like there's this pattern of behavior, or like this pattern of something going on there, and then you're starting to figure out why it is, and then you become conscious of that, and then you can see like, hey, wait, this is this thing right there in my like in my head, that is like this like learned behavior, or this learned thing, or like this archetypal pattern that I'm playing out. And then you can be like, how about no? Because the thing is that the ego, the consciousness, has, in that sense, well, it doesn't have to be controlled by these archetypes, these complexes, and they don't have as much, I guess. I mean, yeah, they do have a lot of like psychic power in some in that sense, but at the same time, it's like we can become, through becoming conscious of it. We can like strip it of some of its I guess effect, and then we can really work on overcoming it. And I guess like it's like Moses and him like showing the snake on the stick to the Israelites when they in Exodus, when they leave, and they're being bitten by the snakes, and then he shows them that, and it's through awareness, through consciousness, being aware of it, that you can overcome and also kind of heal it at the same time.
This is very interesting. Like it is a sense of reflection, and also Medusa is being defeated by reflection. And this is very funny and like Jordan Petersonian in a way. And the other part that I found interesting to what you said is that you dissipate like what the others, in a sense, are into. You don't want to get into it too. You understand it, and you trying to work it out, like to break it. By breaking it apart, you break it apart. In a sense.
Well, yeah, it's like understanding, and I guess the logical mind is kind of it's a Sadhguru analogy. Again, it's he said like it's like a knife basically, and with it we can understand it, and we cut it up and dissect it. But by doing that we bring these different parts of it into like the sphere of consciousness, and then it has less of like an effect on it. We have this shield of reflection, this mirror that we use, and then it loses its power that it otherwise would have had, and then we can overcome it, and we can actually move on past it, and that applies to anything really, like personal and on a personal level regarding the unconscious, but also like collectively, it applies to. But I mean, I guess that's more of a group effort thing, really, because I mean, when speaking of the collective unconscious, it's like, it's like it was mentioned last talk about Moby Dick. It's like, like trying to face Moby Dick, the big whale, basically by oneself, or like Cthulhu or something, and just with your bare hands or something. It's like, no, we need to like have some aid with that. But also one thing just about the shield, just what I wanted to point out is that I think it was Athena that gave the shield to, I think it was, is it Perseus or Theseus? Yes, and that is an anima figure.
Perseus. Bravo.
Yes.
And it is very interesting that he has the sandals of Hermes, that the sandals of Hermes are two swans normally in all the iconography. Then he has the helmet of Hades, that it makes him invisible. The helmet of Hades, it is called sin. Not sin like to do bad stuff, but like this scene of the movie. The scenery, like it covers, it creates a sense of covering. It's like a theater, and maybe this is the sense we elaborate stuff. Then you have the sword, that the sword, I think it is Apollo's sword, but I'm not sure. And generally you see gods holding a golden sword, a burning sword. Even in ancient Greek mythology, from Demeter to Leto to Apollo to even Hermes when he kills Argos. And then this shield has a very interesting story. I think it is, this mirror shield is Aegis. Aegis, it means goat shield in a sense. And like Amalthea was the nurser and also a goat that fed Zeus when he was small and hidden. And she was a golden goat, and after she died, like becoming old, like he consumed her, but he kept as a reminiscence the pelt of her, and he wore it like Heracles. Hercules wears the skin of the lion, and he keep one of the horns that it is the horn of Amalthea, the horn of abundance, like it is his inheritance of what he gained as a child. He never saw his real parents, but he had a sense of great gift from the one that nurtured him. And this skin later was commanded to Hephaestus to make a shield from it. And there is a shield made by Hephaestus having the skin of Amalthea, and above it they placed a mirror. And after Perseus killed Medusa, he offered the shield that also placed the head of Medusa on it. So Athena, in a sense, when she's been attacked, she has a very strong defense that also reflects, and also whoever sees the shield becomes stone.
Right there is very, very, very interesting. Some of the stuff that I or like a lot of the stuff I'm familiar with, but not some of the stuff that you mentioned. I had not heard that before. A lot of it makes me think of a lot of the things that that shamans do in Asia. They wear mirrors on their I could I think you could call it spiritual armor, but they it's to reflect it's they wear it to reflect spirits, basically. That's what they say. And they also wear something on their head and wrap something around them that makes them kind of invisible to the spirit. So like it camouflages them so that they wouldn't know who the person is, and they become someone else for, well, the people who see them walking around too. And I can see like some of that, like, I guess, I don't know, like, it just brought that up for me, and it's just interesting because it's like it kind of connects to like some of the stuff that I've been doing with my own, like, I guess, shamanic journeys that I've been doing to like face things inwardly to yeah, as well with the drum that I have.
This is a very very interesting like view, and I think mirrors as a symbol, like in the sense of protection and also having clarity through the mirror, not seen directly, like a tool. It is very interesting. Also, if you put many mirrors together, you create a prism. And yes, Perseus also name is interesting. It means something like the conqueror, the one who performs siege. And maybe it can be connected with the word Persian as well, but I don't think so. Persian, it means the cleaver, the ones who believed in the cleavers, in a sense, like Parja and such. And it is funny that the very original story, not the one that was later more down to earth and they put it in the Aegean and he went near, in some stories he went near Cyprus, in some stories he went near Turkey. But in the very original story, Perseus goes to between Western Africa and America, somewhere to some islands. And this is very, very interesting. And also Medusa is mortal, and her sisters are immortal. But they don't have this type of power. They are different kind of, like, they are more brutal, and they are all deities of the sea, in a sense. And also Poseidon, like, scarred the land of Ethiopia back then, if I remember correctly, because they, how can I say, they dishonored him, and he plagued the people, and this is how he came by chance and destiny, Perseus, to meet with Andromeda. But it is very interesting that it has to do with Atlantic Ocean, from this side, outside of Mediterranean. And in a sense, even though people didn't know exactly these regions, like they were understood, like there is an island on this side, this. And the last part, it is that it is possible that Medusa and Poseidon, like they were an original couple in like Mycenaean mythology, like older Greek mythology. Just he fell in favor of Zeus, and Zeus is connected more to Perseus, like he is the father of Perseus. In the original story, he didn't rape Poseidon, most possibly Medusa.
That's just. I don't know. I think a lot of this is very interesting in regarding that. I don't know. It makes me think of some like very old myths that talk about it's about the twins going into the underworld or under the sea and rescuing like the sun goddess from there. It's like very very ancient stuff, and often it's also connected to a particular island rumored to be where what you're talking about often in these myths. So I don't know. I think maybe in some sense also like it's like something that's at the horizon in the west where the sun goes down, and I think that kind of is symbolic in of itself, and represents something. Maybe like again like maybe a connection to the underworld and the unconscious, because like the ocean really connects to that as well, and I guess Poseidon being the ruler of that. I don't know. And I also said like these monsters, Godzilla and Cthulhu coming from there. I think yeah, definitely there's a link to that.
Sea monsters. Yes, there is like a fear, very very deep fear of sea monster, like the abyss.
Yeah.
I think it is not unstanding. Like it is put in a sense also in the abyss, like the way we are moving and we are doing in every part of our daily life. It is very very narrowed and very very stuck. Like we are trapped in the abyss. We feel this sense of not being able to do anything. But also it has to do, I think, with the thinking of these deities. And sometimes even in Sumerian, was it Sumerian? Like in Sumerian mythology, you have Abzu as original god, but in other senses, you have Anu, the god of the real heaven, in a sense. That gives also the deity to God. So could it be that there is a higher god, that his roots, all these gods sank? Or is it that like a god that is sunk is dreaming outside, and by dreaming outside he creates an image of sky and heaven, like it is the karma he is bearing, in a sense.
I don't know. I wouldn't. I really wouldn't know what in that sense to answer to that. I really wouldn't know. I really wouldn't know. I've just myself like both like Hades, but also Poseidon, like often associated with like different, I guess, aspects of the underworld. More like, I don't know. I guess one. I guess with the water more with like, and Poseidon more with, I guess, like the emotional sense of, or like the emotions more. Maybe with Hades it's more like, I guess a different manner. I don't really know with regarding to that. Maybe more like, I guess, the shadow side of like, or maybe just the shadow in of itself. Maybe.
I think yes, in a sense, Hades and Poseidon are not the same god, whatever, like they are different. Like Poseidon is called also Earthtaker, and like the one who brings the earth in one. So he's like a ruler that is on earth. He looks like more from Mesopotamia, like Enki to this part. And sometimes you see in this sense, like the land and the sea are diluted between. You cannot see a clear cut between the land of the sea. It is like the surface of the earth. And Poseidon was a bit more prominent than Zeus in Mycenaean mythology. For example, you have Poseidon. The name means down, means like domain, the earth, the surface, and Poti. This one is the same root in possible or in pose and such. It is the one who can stand on the earth, like the conqueror of the earth. And also he is called the bull of the world, in a sense. The bull of the earth. But Poseidon could be, in a sense, a figure from the collective unconscious. Zeus also is a conglomeration of figures, like it has the sense of the giant slayer, that it is like Thor. He is also a sky deity, and he has some kinds of the elements of the sun deity.
Yeah. No, that's true. That is indeed true. And I do think in that sense there's a lot of over, or like, I don't know, like a lot through that. And I think, like, that's where Jung came that's where Jung derived his archetypes from seeing these similarities between all kinds of regions, really. And yeah, I do think that, I don't know, I was just thinking with the bull, I mean, and Mycenae in Greece, it makes sense why the bull, because it's the age of or like it's the Bronze Age, and in the Bronze Age, bull symbolism was very popular because, well, it was the age of Taurus in astrologically, so that's kind of why that started to pop up. Similarly to like how with Jesus, there's the fish symbolism in it within Christianity.
This is very, very on it. Also, like the bull is an evolution of the symbol of the horse, or the reverse. And also from bull, alternative dendrogram of symbolism, you have the pig, like the degenerate coming of the earth, like you have the sense of having to keep economy, but also it has the unpure part, but also the part of wealth. Like you see many symbolisms of both for kings, even in Akkadian Empire. And then, and even Tarhunta, I think it is connected with pig, and also Seth in Egypt. And then you have the symbol of the goat, that it is also a more occult symbol. And then you have the symbol of the lamb.
Mm-hmm.
And the ram, that the ram is also a kind of leadership, but of giving away. Aries.
Yes.
In Zodiac, in Persian mythology, like it would be Traetona or Fereidun, a Thor-like figure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's something that I've learned recently. It's from it's from shamans from Asia that I interact with, and so there's the concept of the wind horse in that. The wind horse is a symbol of, well, in Jungian, or like Jung would call it a symbol of the self, and that's kind of what it is. And it's a horse, and the horse is apparently a symbol of the self. So in that sense, a symbol of the soul, how they call it. And if and the bull makes sense too, that it would be such a symbol, because I think it is Jung that wrote about it, like how it connects to the, I guess, the animalistic self. There's in the Mithras myth, he slays the bull because it's like overcoming of the, I guess, the animalistic self, the passions, and that part of well, the human being, to overcome it in some sense, to rise to a higher sense of consciousness.
Also, it is very connected with bulk in the sense like desires bulk up. And it is also connected with the sense of organized city. Like after you had nomads or small communities and they start to make walls and they start to make cities and they start to make all these things, like you start to have the sense of the bull. Also the establishment, and you have demands and you have also the needs and you have also the necessity in a sense. And it is very interesting, like this is connected as symbolism. Fish, I think it is connected as a metaphor snake. As a metaphor snake, it is dragon. And as a metaphor snake, it is the bird, like Garuda in Indian mythology.
Interesting, but I do think, for me, maybe I would like to wrap it up for now. You guys can like continue to talk still.
Sure. No problem. I guess it will be a
Good listening to y'all.
Yes.
yeah.
Guys, for a little one, I will have to go.